Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Tina Horner Stolz with us. She is founder slash CEO at LXCouncil. We're going to talk about masterminds and peer groups today. It's one of my favorite topics. I've started my own masterminds, I think it was 2 years ago. Can't say that most were successful from a financial perspective. My mastermind is called level96.com. It's been quite successful from other standpoints, though. I've made a bunch of friends. I'm actually meeting a group of friends that started online with Level 96 physically in Montreal in 2 days, actually, on Friday. So we're going to discuss about that, how to make a successful mastermind group, how to recruit the members, how to segment the meeting adequately, and what should be the themes of discussions and so forth. There needs to be a mediator and everything in between. This pod is presented to you by my company. It's called podfire.com. If you want to start your own podcast and scale it to the sky, you can go to podfire.com. Podcasting is pretty fun. You meet cool people, you grow neurons, you even make business deals happen while on air and sharing good stuff with the world. So podfire.com if you need help launching and scaling your podcast. Tina, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and LXCouncil.
Thank you very much for inviting me as a guest. I obviously love the topic. I love that you have some experience with it. So this will be a fun conversation to help the listeners, because all that matters if you want to do it, then that you do it so you can be successful and can learn from others who've already paved the way, right? So that is what my company is all about. So LXCouncil stands for Leader Exchange Council, kind of a play on leaders exchanging insights, experiences when they're inside, actually as a member. And my whole mission with the whole team that we have is we are a licensing model. So think of it as we're more wholesale behind the scenes. We help you with your brand, do a really good job in identifying the type of groups you want to do, virtual, in-person, hybrid, what kind of niche, whatever that might be, how do you charge for it, the whole 9 yards, and then what kind of agenda do you have so that you retain and have a really exceptional member experience. So what we do is we have an academy and then ongoing support that people can have, so they're not going it alone either. And that's what we're all about at LXCouncil. So that's the
How
mission.
did you get that started? Tell me about your earlier self and your career, and how do you actually decided to start LXCouncil?
I appreciate the question because there is a real reason, and it has to do with some of the flaws that exist in the industry as a whole, in the peer group industry. So I was in corporate life, and one of the things that in corporate that I learned immediately is the value of partnerships, right? And so where you can leverage 1 + 1 is not 2 by working with others, it means more, right? Exponentially. So when I decided to leave corporate, I was looking for something that was similar, kind of that I can do without a lot of travel. And that's how I got into the peer group space. And so I became a franchisee of a franchisor, and I became their fastest launching franchise of groups. I launched immediately with 41 clients. And then that translated into 4 different groups. I grew it to 10 groups. We have a territory. I maxed out the territory. So I was kind of now what? But I was also kind of working my tail off, Charles. So when you do this, it should leverage your time. That's one of the nice things about it, because it's not one-on-one, it's many. And I was getting burned out over 100 members, and it was like, there has to be a better way. I saw so many of my fellow franchisees failing. I saw a lot of the competitors failing, and I was like, why this should not have to be the case. So I sold, and I wanted to start a completely different model that allowed anyone that wanted to do this no matter what market they were in. You didn't have to be in a big major market. You could have freedom and flexibility and earn a really good ROI, but really that you could actually launch successfully. So that's what caused me to do this, because there wasn't a licensing model out there, and there wasn't a model like this. And I'm trying to reinvent how people can go about doing this and be innovative and, meet their personal goals. So
Who are your ideal clients? Let's start with that.
The ideal client for this is, so first of all, I do and teach business mastermind groups. Now, sometimes there's personal, people do it for more personal reasons. These are all business people. So in a group, and there is a difference between a mastermind group and a peer group. There's a lot of issues with this industry of terminology. There's no common terminology. It can be confusing, hard to navigate. So what are my ideal client that we really help are those that love business, have a high level of business acumen. They want to leverage that knowledge, and actually they're looking for both financial and time freedom. So they either have sold their business and they want to do this, or they could be a senior executive and realize that's not the path they want to stay on. They might want to spend more time at home with their children, or they might want to travel and have that more flexibility, whatever that might be. And this is a good path for that. They might do consulting, and this is a great avenue for reoccurring income stream, revenue stream, because it's also recession proof, very recession proof. And so this gives sometimes peace of mind to do it. So the ideal, individual is going to be anybody that fits in any of that category. And you can do as many groups as you want. So it can be part-time, it can be more full-time. There's just so much, as long as it fits, the passion of who it is that you want to serve, whether it's a business owner or it's a niche, like it could be a position like senior level executives, HR professionals, women only, manufacturing only, whatever that might be. Doesn't matter.
So what do the groups look like? It's 5 individuals from these industries. What's the duration, and what are the teams discussed during these peer networking groups?
I think you'd like ask me like what the makeup is, sort of, right?
Yeah. What's the scenario? Let's say I'm part of one of your groups.
Mm. So what I teach for those that are running them is that typically if it's in person, 10 to 12 is kind of the max in the group. That's kind of an ideal number. Having 10, the reason is it's enough people for diversity of thought and diversity of experience around the table, in addition to just diversity of like perspective that comes with diversity, whether that's in gender or race, etc. The other is you want enough people for energy level too. So if you have too few people, you miss the energy, you miss the diversity. But if you have too many, you miss the intimacy. So it is a art and a science math, and that's really kind of where it lies when it's an in-person. If it's virtual, it's a little more difficult to have that many people virtually, and the meetings are a little bit shorter because of virtual, right? And so you got to be careful. And so having 10 on virtual is hard because you want everybody to be able to see each other, because that's a big part of trust and vulnerability and connecting, is that everybody can see each other on the screen. And if you have too many people, you can't. And that changes the entire dynamic completely. So you want to have 10-ish or less, on as far as a virtual is. You have to use some judgment. And virtual meetings are usually 3 hours, in person or 4. We teach the core of the meeting. So it really acts like a board of director meeting with the member. If they want coaching or some things like that, absolutely, but do that separately off to the side. That's strictly a personal preference. If somebody wants to offer coaching because they love coaching, but that's a different profession. That is not running a peer group meeting, because the skill set to run a group meeting is completely different than coaching or consulting, as I'm sure you know that after you've been doing this for so long, right?
Right. The composition, the numbers, the personalities, like how do you choose personalities in one group? Is it like 2 fire starters and 2 fire maintainers? Like, how does that work?
I'm going to answer this. It'll probably be a controversial answer. Usually everybody thinks it's kind of like number of employees or revenue. And I am not suggesting that at all. And what you really have to do in the ultimate, the reason it's called a peer group, you know, or if you're calling it a mastermind group, is because it really is peers, right, around the table. If you're putting a board of directors together for an owner or someone, you have to choose, right, people that fit and complement that, right, owner. So it's the same thing with the peers around the table. So what do I mean by that? You're going to be fitting individuals together based on past experiences and future where they want to go. So you're going to look at their sophistication level and their experience level. For example, there are exceptions to the rule, but let me just give a quick example. Some people go, well, you know, sometimes I like to mix a startup with a mature business. And because a startup can breathe some life into a mature business thinking, etc. True, absolutely. However, you have to be very careful with that because that startup is just how much are they really going to be able to help a mature business around the table. It depends on their background and their level of expertise and sophistication. So you want to really match people, not on the revenue employees, because that doesn't always fit at all. It's not an indicator of that because you could have somebody who's on their third company and they might only be $1 million in revenue, but they are just outstanding in regards to their level of experience, and they should be at the table with other large businesses because of that. So it's another reason why you don't really rely on revenue and employees for that reason. So I always like to say match with the challenges that somebody has faced and how do those match with the others in the group where they're going and challenges they're probably getting ready to see, successes that can be shared that was going to help this over here. And then based on the vision of where they're going, how can the others around the table, maybe they've already been there, right? So you can look at things like, okay, if I have a company that has a partnership, or maybe they're a family-owned business, maybe I need to also have a family-owned business in the group because those are different and nuances, and it's good to have at least one or two similarities. If I'm a contractor and I do things by billing or professional services, I might have another one. If I'm B2B, there might be another B2B, or B2C, there might be another B2C. So that's what I'm kind of getting at. It sounds difficult and complicated, but it really isn't. It's really not that hard to match.
Right. So, challenges that they're facing that I have already faced, and ideally vice versa if they're peers, because they're not like mentors in which it's like unidirectional. Do you have examples of like that? And you said no age, no revenues or vertical. Like, don't we need to have experience in their vertical to give them adequate advice? How do you roll with?
So are you, for example, if someone may say, if I'm in manufacturing, how can someone else who's not in manufacturing help me? And many studies have been done on this, by the way. So 85% is what studies say of most all business challenges are the same. So 85% of the time, it doesn't matter what industry you're in at all. Now, what do you do with the other 15%? So if it's really a very specific thing like lean manufacturing and nobody else around the table is going to understand it, then no, they probably need to go to an expert or something like that, or their industry association or something, if that's ever happens. But if that does occur, that there's probably a community out there. So like for us, like when we teach this we call them our licensed partners that are running all these groups, these licensed partners, they'll probably have somebody else has a manufacturing organization. And so you just make a connection to that other individual, that other company. And so that can help them. However, it's interesting in that you also prevent what we call industry mindthink. Right. So it helps anyway for people not to be many times in just a real true vertical, because at some point they're all like, yeah, this can never be solved. We all have this industry. Well, because they can't think outside their box, lack of a better word. So it helps to have different people to help really get people to truly think differently to solve things. So you don't have to be an expert in it to get people to think differently.
Right. Then do you have a mediator or someone that organizes the flow of the conversation? How long is it, and what do we talk about?
That's our license. So a licensed partner in the world out there, they are called either a moderator, a chair, a facilitator, right? That are running those meetings. So, that's a skill set in itself, to do that, because you're not there to coach or consult, even though in the meeting, right, you could do all of those things. So at some point in time, you might have to coach because of particular type of situations occurring with members. You might have to kind of coach them through it. Maybe one member kind of misunderstood another member's feedback, and you kind of have to intervene and sort of mediate, right? A little bit. You might have to, at some points, you're going to have to corral people and bring them into the conversation, or, or gently, right, move a conversation on from someone who's talking too much, et cetera. So it really is about, when you do a really good job, it looks like you weren't really there because you're really orchestrating it so eloquently. So because the meeting is about the members. So there is, the art to be sure. They all are speaking, things move along. I always call this arch of a conversation. It's time to move on in that particular topic. When you've kind of reached the top, you've gleaned like the best points from it, and more conversation is just going to be kind of nice to have, but not necessary. So cut it, move on. So you're always, always getting the best and the most out of each of those conversations. But there is a definite agenda, a foundation, 4 pillars that we teach, and to follow those 4 pillars. And when you do that with your nuances kind of in between, based on the culture of the group, the members stay. So the retention rate of our program of members is over 88%. You got to keep it, as a business owner, if you're not getting value and if things aren't kind of moving along, you're not going to spend your time there, right? So you got to keep it fresh for them.
Yeah, my best additions, I think they've been like folks similar to myself. Like, do you get the same experience? In my case, it's been agency owners or SaaS owners that are young, that are making a couple of 100Ks per year. And we have like similar problems, similar needs, and we can all give advice to one another in some shape and form of situation. So did you experience the same?
Yes. So that can be very helpful because you all are extremely similar, right? And you have a language that you speak, that you all can speak, right? And that if someone else were in your group that wasn't in your space might not have a clue, right? What you're talking about. And that has a tremendous value. Like I'm sure you've seen, right? You probably love that group, I'm assuming, right? And so that's great. And then at some point, you do get to a point when you have those nuances kind of all sort of figured out, and you're ready to go to another level. And then you might need a different type group, or you stay with that one and you add one into it, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where sometimes the differentiators of I use this as another clarifying point of how you can put people together in a group. Think of tactical and strategic. How much time are you, like, let's just say a member, prospect, spending on tactical things, tasks, tactical doing, et cetera, versus being strategic? And another way to think about when you have people together in a group is you want to match a little bit of that. Because if I'm back to the example of the mature company with that CEO has, multi-layers of management, people report to him, is in a position to be strategic. When someone is over here and they're extremely tactical, will frustrate them because the conversations are completely different and night and day. And so that's the other thing you got to just kind of think of.
What do you charge to help mastermind groups work together?
For to be part of my program, you mean?
Right.
Well, there's 2 ways to kind of do it. One way is that we have, if you just want to download information, and we have an academy, and we've taken some of the modules from the Academy to create where we have an explorer path that you can just download. I think it's just maybe $199, not a lot. And it really helps you decide what type of groups you want to do and how do you price them and that sort of thing, and things you need to know for sure, this is what I want to do. Then we have like a master builder program that is $70.99. That actually teaches you how to run the meetings and moderate, because moderating is a skill set, and how do you retain your members, etc. And if you really want like to do it right, you want to, be part of a community and really take doing this as a profession really seriously, then you become a licensed partner, and that is $19,009 to come into our community, and that's where we have a 97% success rate. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for success, quick launch. You'll get your ROI back in 6 months, and you're part of a community of continuous learning, and we help you and support you with weekly calls, monthly learning, that kind of thing.
So what are your top goals for this year?
One is really helping all of our licensed partners increase and get more members. So we have a lot of programs to help them drive more members, to get their groups to be sure they're full, but to launch new groups and more groups. And so that's one big initiative, and it's a big focus because we're always looking to improve upon the experience of our clients. And then to drive membership to a conference. So we have a conference every year annually, and it's in October. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's for anyone who wants to create or run. They're already running groups. They could be independent. They don't have to be associated with us. It doesn't matter. And it's an opportunity to really be around others running groups and learn and techniques and content and all of that. So it's really driving those two initiatives this year. I thank you for asking that question. Nobody ever asked that question.
My pleasure. Last question. Where can people find out more about you online?
A couple of things. One is you can go to the website. So LXCouncil.com. And that's the easiest. You can connect with me there. You can schedule a call if you want. I'm happy to, I even have this thing, if we can have a call for 15 minutes, if you don't give value, I'll pay you $100. So, because it's not a sales call, it's literally, how can I help you? Answer questions, and there we go. So that's the best. Have a podcast, Mastermind Mastery, where it's a deep dive into very specific topics on running groups. So if you're thinking about it, that's a great place to go and kind of hear and learn, and always have guests. And so you might want to connect with some of the guests there at the same time too. So either those, any of those ways. And also I have written 2 books, and you can also get one of the books free as a download. So I'm all about lots of free material and resources. It's all out there.